Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Check it out. Today we're going to be reviewing the Milwaukee Fuel M18 electric chainsaw. I decided to buy kind of a reputable brand because now that we own our own house, I need some quality tools to do like yard work and upkeep and stuff like that. And there's a bunch of trees around here that I need to cut down. I'll have the link in the description of where you can get it without any battery or anything because I already had some batteries laying around. This is the battery that came with the weed eater, so I'm going to be using this. And the great thing about the M18 system is you can use any M18 battery. It doesn't matter how big it is or what. You see how it has a little tester here. As long as it's the M18 style tool. Always buy some bar chain oil. I'll also have this in the description. I ordered this when I ordered the chainsaw because you need to fill that bar oil right here. You need to lubricate the chain. Even though this is electric, it still needs to lubricate that chain. This one here is the 16 inch. I think they make this in a couple of different sizes, but I figured a 16 inch. There's not really any trunks that are larger in diameter really than this, so I think this would work good for the property here. They also have that little smaller like handsaw too you can get from these guys. But anyway guys, let's get started. Let's see how this thing does and see how many cuts it can do and how easy it is to use, how loud it is and all that stuff, and start cutting a tree up. All right guys, so this was the carnage that I did from the top porch. If you guys caught that pole saw review, had to kind of doing some remodeling on the porch because this tree is starting to encroach on the porch, or was. And you can see all this carnage. My son Kian helped me kind of pull down some branches as I cut them with that pole saw from there. So be sure to check out that video if you want to see how that pole extension does. It actually can cut through a trunk that thick with that little like 6-7 inch saw. That's pretty amazing, huh? I mean, that's a good 10 inches right there. So I don't know how I did it, but I did it with that. And so now I have this trunk left over, and I think I'm just gonna fall this trunk like straight that way. So I'm gonna try to do back cut, front cut, and get it to fall in that direction. Definitely don't want it to like roll over and hit the house. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, this is the project. And so what I'm going to be doing too is cutting all this stuff up too, like all the stuff that I already previously cut, to see really how this thing kind of does. So one thing I forgot to mention is this saw does come with a little tool, so a chain tool right here. The only thing is it's really hard to get out. It's almost like you need another tool to get this thing out, so I'm not going to take it out right now, but it's basically a bar tool, just a socket and a screwdriver attached to each other so that you can adjust your chain once it gets loose. And this thing will get loose because this is the first time I'm using it, so I'm going to be showing you how to adjust that too. All right, anyway, got a full charged XC 8.0 battery in here, and let's just start this thing up. Basically, you get the battery in there, all you got to do is you're pressing the safety button, pulling the trigger. That's how, just like a regular chainsaw, but you don't have to start it, right? So anyway, let's see how long this XC80 battery lasts and how many actually cuts it can do. Ooh, that sucker's sharp because it's brand new. Since I'm going to be using some of this tree for firewood, I'm going to go ahead and cut the logs to like fireplace size. So you can see how quick that thing cuts, man. With a sharp chain, there's like no comparison. As you can see, I'm just sorting through all this stuff, just kind of clearing it out before I get to the big trunk. We'll do that in a little bit, so stay tuned for that one. All right, so you can see so far the amount of cuts I've done. That was pretty short work of all that. Let's see what our power's like. Yeah, it looks like we might have used 20% of the battery. Just trying to get an area to work with this larger tree. You know, you want to have an open area as possible, so kind of have an escape route out the back. I'm digging the silence of this thing too. Awesome. See what our battery's like. Still 3/4 charge. Great. Look at this one. This was done with the little pull saw too. The M18 quick lock pull saw extension. All right, so here we go. So I think I got enough space for the big boy. And I really just want it to fall right here. So I'm gonna make my cut, my 45, and then my straight across right here, angling this way. Do want to cut about 1/3 into the tree, so I don't want to go too far. Okay, so see that wedge? That's kind of our 45-degree wedge. You can see it there on the camera, and that's exactly the way I want it to fall. Just straight that way. See that? So I want to be a little higher and then notch it right here. See that moving there a little bit? That's almost ready to go. Just gotta get a little closer. All right, I bet you I can just push it now and then run away and clear this stuff out. Yeah, here we go. All right, you guys ready for this? No, it's not gonna fall this way. Hopefully it doesn't smash my windmill. Let's see. Go. Perfect. All right, hey man, hinge cutting works, dude. Absolutely fantastic. You can see what the ants have been doing to this one. So it was eventually kind of dying. Woodpeckers and ants got in there. And it's just so close to the house. I mean, look how close that was. That's like 7 feet away, giant tree, forest fire and falling precautions. And it was ruining the porch. That's the main reason right now why I'm getting rid of it. I'm gonna tighten this chain right now, actually, before we do any more. That went well though, awesome. All right guys, so removing the battery. We got half battery life left, so that's great. And that's on the 8.0 battery. And then we got to get our chain tool out. Let me see if I can pull this out with my fingers. I think I'm gonna have to get my screwdriver, but there's a little notch for it here. Yeah, I can't pull that out. That's kind of ridiculous how they make it so hard to get out where you need another tool. I guess you could use a stick or something, but it's just a little tension piece of metal. But there it is, our bar tool. Okay, so you can see how loose our chain is now. All we want to do is loosen up these two nuts. Not a whole lot, just enough so the bar kind of moves around. And then we want to crank this little flathead tensioning a little by little until we have only about 1/8 of an inch or so of chain slack, and it sucks back in when we pull it out. See that? You pull it up and it sucks right back down in there. That should be good. Don't want to make it too tight, or you could fry the chain and do damage to the bar, other components. But you do want to give these nuts a good crank so it doesn't come loose again while you're cutting. So final check. Yeah, that's good. It's a little bit tight for my liking, but I think it'll be okay. Put our tool back right in there. And we're ready to cut all this stuff up. Okay guys, after all that, I have a half a battery left. I got 2 bars. So let's see how much longer this 8.0 can last. 16-inch blade. You can see how big that trunk was. So that's like kind of like a 17, 18-inch trunk. So it worked perfectly, just doing the front and back cut. Fell exactly in the direction I wanted. That's the first time I've ever tried the hinge back and front cut technique on a tree, and kind of the first time I've ever cut down a tree this big. So worked really well. So I hope that helps you out too if you guys are trying to do some yard work as well. It does feel like it's down on power just a little bit, not as much as when it was fully charged, but of course with a sharp chain you're still going to be cutting good. All right, we're at 25% on the battery. Let's see how much longer this thing lasts, what it does when it runs out of power. So I can feel it starting to bog a little. we're blinking on our last percentage. I'm just gonna keep going. This thing should have a low voltage shut off so it doesn't destroy the battery. Let's see if that's the case. There it goes. So just shut out on me, cut out on me there, and I have a fast blinking one light now. So let's see how easy it is just to take this battery out. Now this is the biggest one I got, the 8.0, but like I said, it can take any M18 battery, and I got 3 or 4 more of the 4.0s. So I'll take 2 of these down with me. So if you can imagine, it's gonna last twice or half as long as the 8.0. The 4.0 will last half as long. So let's see how this thing does, if it's got enough. These guys have enough torque as well. It's the same voltage, it's just lower capacity. There we are, pop it in, full load. Nice. So the smaller batteries, you know, the 4.0s, they don't quite feel like they do actually have, even though they're the same voltage, they don't feel like they have as much power in them. You know, it doesn't feel as powerful as that 8.0. I want to cut this one right here. And that blade had some flex in it, that's for sure. That cut was flexing. I think that was the cut I tried to do from the house when I was topping the tree. Whew. When I'm cutting these smaller branches, it does feel like it has the same amount of power actually. All right, let's see if we can get through this. We got 75% on the battery. Good enough. You can see those big cuts start to bog it a little bit, but it still pushes through. Yeah, but you will pull this battery down quick. We're already at 25 or so percent. So just those few cuts there with the 4.0 battery is eating it up quite quickly. That's some thick logs though, that's for sure. That's that battery. All right, that's as much as I could do with the 4.0. Lucky I got a bunch of these. I should probably put that 8.0 back on the charger, because I still got a couple of these, and I'll charge that 8.0 while I'm using these hubs. All right guys, so this 8.0 took a good hour to fully charge, but it is back in action. I'm just gonna kind of finish up the last few 4.0 batteries, or this is a 5.0 and this is a 4.0. Okay, so I do have one 5.0 as well, but I'm thinking, you know what? That 4.0 battery seemed to bog a little, and I'm thinking maybe I tightened the chain a little bit too much. So I'm just gonna loosen this just a tad. Of course, your chain's too tight, you also create more drag, and with the battery, or even a gas-powered chainsaw, you're going to start creating extra resistance and robbing it of power, right? So we don't want that. I'm gonna back this off just a little bit and see if we can't get a little better torque and runtime on this thing. Cool thing about the adjuster is it feels like it has like little notches. So you're not just like randomly spinning it. You actually have something to go by. That feels a little better, a little bit looser. And I think that'll kind of give us a better torque and runtime, more efficiency on this thing. I do wish though that this tool was just a little bit easier to take out. It just seems like it's a little too hard to get out, but I guess they figure maybe you'll have some sticks and branches around when you're using this, so it's not that too big of a deal. I'm gonna try the 5.0 now. I have a fully charged 5.0 M18 battery. Let's slap that bad boy in there and see if we can maybe finish this up. Yeah, that feels a lot better on the chain. Let's just keep on going. It does actually feel like I'm getting a little bit better freewheel now that the chain's not so tight. So it does feel like a bit more efficiency. Now when I'm cutting, I'm just pushing down a little bit, not too hard. Not as hard as actually I am on a regular gas-powered chainsaw. And that's probably because the chain is pretty new. It just cuts like butter. Just basically letting the weight of the chainsaw kind of do its thing, with just a little bit of pressure. I don't want to say no pressure, but just a little bit. Look at that nice cross section. That is a nice piece of tree right there. Nice ponderosa pine. Maybe even some good woodworking wood right here. gonna take me a few batteries to cut this big old thing up. There goes that battery. All right, that was the 5.0. So it's good to know that these things do have a pretty good low voltage cutoff. What I notice is when it does shut off like that in mid-cut, you get like this weird flashing. You see that on the battery, and that just means it's like it's in its under voltage state, like it sucked too much power and it's probably a little hot. So it won't charge until that stops blinking like that all randomly because the battery just got a little bit hot. But that's to be expected. I mean, with a high torque motor like this and how much drag we're putting on it, that's what happens with lithium batteries. So just make sure you have a few batteries around if you're cutting up a tree like this, that's for sure. All right, back to a 4.0. All right, guys, well, I think I'm gonna be done for now with this tree. As you can see, I mean, we cut everything except this big honking part of this trunk. And I know I can cut it down. It's just a matter of time and charging up the batteries and stuff. So I'm gonna leave that for a little bit later. So the ponderosa pines, I'm not sure if they have some kind of worm or beetle sometimes, and the woodpeckers try to get them. But you'll notice in my backyard here, I've got all these dead trees that I kind of need to take care of and cut down. Probably seen some of these in my Avata test flight drone video around the house. But there's literally like 10 or 11 small trees. You see how they're just all brown? And what happens is they get infested with some kind of beetle. You can see it here. There's some like patterns under the bark from the beetles. And then what happens is the woodpecker starts stripping the bark off to get to the beetles. Look at that one. It's just like almost completely stripped clean. And I just want to cut them down, chop them up for firewood so they're not a fire hazard if a fire ever comes around here. So anyway, I'm just going to cut all these down real quick, get most of the stuff done I can for this review. So it's kind of a little more of an extensive test on this chainsaw, more informative to you guys that are looking to buy something like this. Getting a little bit dull, not dull, but definitely not as sharp as it used to be. So you can see how with these smaller cuts, the thing just goes right through them and you're not going to use much power at all. Still at full charge with those 3 trees I just cut. Just because it's the thickness of the trunk, right? If it's thick, you just got so much more strain on this electric motor, pulling more amps. And something I'm finding is the larger the battery, it can push more amps to the chainsaw. So you really, with this kind of motor and chainsaw, you want to have as big as battery as possible. So I might just go ahead and buy one of the larger batteries that this is meant for this thing, because I know it'll give it more amperage, more torque, more power. Anytime you're going down in battery size, you're kind of losing that amperage as well. Still works fine, but you just lose a little bit of power each time you go down in size. All right, guys, and for this chain tightening test, I want to see if that theory of you're going to have a stick around to get the tool out of the bottom is going to work. Let's take out this battery. By the way, 75% still on the 8.0. I'll take that bad boy out. And let's see if we can just get this out with a stick. I don't see why not. Yeah, so I guess that's the theory. It's in there tight so it doesn't fall out. You're gonna have sticks wherever you're chainsawing because you're gonna have branches, hopefully, unless you're chainsawing like a palm tree, I guess. But I guess you'll still have something around, hopefully. So that's the theory on that. Maybe that's why they make it so tight. So there definitely are other chainsaws, electric chainsaws out there that are higher than 18 volt. And that's going to give you like higher power, higher torque, and a faster speed. But I'll tell you what, man, for what I'm doing here, even that bigger tree over there, this was fine for around the house. I mean, I ain't looking to, maybe if I wanted to use it professionally, I'd buy a bigger one of these with that big, I think it's a 10.0 or 12.0 battery that just kind of like fills up this whole slot and you just have lots more torque and power and longevity. If I was doing something professionally, I might buy the bigger one, but for around the house, like I was saying, This is just fine, kind of like these medium, somewhat large trees. No huge trunks here I'm trying to cut down. So this thing's perfect. You guys saw it yourself. This thing performed very well. Just keep in mind, let's go through a little pros and cons. Just like any other chainsaw, even gas, you're gonna have to deal with the bar and the chain tightening and sharpening. You know, it does have the kickoff that will stop it. Let's actually try that real quick. Say I'm sawing, it just stops it right away, the kickback stopper. So that works well. You're gonna have to put in bar oil. So just like a gas chainsaw from here up, and pretty much the controls, but where you get into the electrics is you don't have a starter. You don't have to deal with tuning it, putting gas, your gas getting old. So that's a huge deal for me. And the noise, okay, and smell. So no noise, not nearly as much noise as a gas. I mean, a gas chainsaw you can hear for miles. This one you can probably only hear, probably can't even hear it down at the main road from my driveway. No smell whatsoever. Instant on off as long as your battery's charged. So comparing that to gas, you'd have to fill up gas. With this, you just have to put in a new battery. Just make sure you have multiple batteries. That's the main thing with this review is gonna be get a few batteries for this chainsaw, because I'd hate to be chainsawing and then you only have one battery. You gotta wait an hour to charge it if you needed to get the job done. So that's a little bit of a con, is you have to wait for batteries to charge, but as long as you have extra batteries. And the great thing about the M18, like other brands, is they have the universal battery kit. So with the M18 system, I got the quick lock end as well. So I can use these same batteries in my weed trimmer attachment for the quick lock. That's what's kind of cool about staying with the same brand, is you can interlock all those batteries and all different kinds of devices, and you don't have to keep buying batteries for different things. Anyway, guys, that's my review of the Milwaukee M18 16-inch chainsaw. It worked phenomenally for what I'm using it for. I hope you guys enjoyed the review and it was informative for you. Go ahead and check the links down in the description of where you can get the Milwaukee. These guys always have combo deals where you can either get a free battery or multiple tools for a killer price. And I'll have some of those links down in the description, so don't forget to check those out, and also the stuff I use to film my videos. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey buddy, you wanna help? Throw it down. Here, hold it. Oh, hold it and throw it over. Throw it over. Good job. How about that one? Oh. Here, you wanna help? Yay, good job.